The first skateboard started with wooden boxes or boards with roller skate wheels slapped on the bottom. As you might imagine, a lot of people got hurt in the early skateboarding years. The boxes turned to planks, and eventually companies started producing decks of pressed layers of plywood. During this time, skateboarding was seen as something just to do for fun. In 1963, skateboarding was at peak popularity, and companies like Jack's, Hobie, Macau started holding skateboarding competitions. At this time, skateboarding was mostly either downhill or freestyle. Torger Johnson, Woody Woodward, and Danny Burr were all known skateboarders at this time. But what they did looked almost completely different from what skateboarders do today. Their style in skateboarding was called freestyling. Then, in 1965, skateboarding's popularity suddenly crashed. Most people assumed that skateboarding was a fad that had died out, just like the fidget spinner or the kendama. Skateboard companies folded, and people who wanted to skate had to make their own skateboard equipment and boards. But people still skated even though the parts were hard to find, boards were homemade. Skaters were using clay wheels for their boards, which was extremely dangerous and hard to control. But then in 1972, Frank Nasworthy invented the urethane skateboard wheels, which are similar to what most skaters use today. His company was called Cadillac Wheels, and invented sparked new interest in skateboarding among surfers and other young people. In the spring of 1975, skateboarding took an evolutionary boost toward the sport that we see today. In Del Mar, California, a slalom freestyling contest was held at the Ocean Festival. That day, this Icefer team showed the world what skateboarding could be. They rode their boards like no one else had been, and they were criticized for it too. This Icefer team had many members, but the most famous ones were Tony Alva, Jay Adams, and Stacy Poitras. But that wasn't the only first big jump in the evolution of skateboarding. The Icefer team and all the skaters who wanted to be like them made skateboarding's image even edgier and added a strong anti-establishment sentiment that still remains to the skateboarding today. In 1978, only a few years into the popularity of the new style low-to-the-ground skateboarding, Alan Gilfin, nicknamed Ollie, invented the Ollie. Later, he was introduced into the Skateboard Hall of Fame in 2002. As the 70s closed, skateboarding faced its second crash in its popularity. Public skate parks have been built, but with skateboarding being such a dangerous activity, insurance rates got out of control. This combined with fewer people coming to skate parks and forced many to close. It being dangerous with torn ACLs, torn ankles, broken teeth, and demolished pride. Tony Hawk, one of the well-known skaters in skateboarding history, was also affected by this crash in the market.
22 years old, 21. Every year my salary was being cut in half pretty much.
Rodney Mullen, pro skater and one of Tony Hawk's good friends, in an interview says he remembers looking for quarters and dimes in Tony's car so they can go eat at Del Taco. By the early 90s, skateboarding had moved nearly entirely to the new street sport. With the more raw, edgy, and dangerous attitude, and the rise of more angry punk music and a general mood of discontent, the image of poor, angry skater punks came to the surface loud and proud, and it actually helped fuel skateboarding's popularity. Many skaters were looked down upon as lazy and delinquents. In 1995, ESPN held its first Extreme Games in Rhode Island. These first X Games were a huge success and helped pull skateboarding closer to the mainstream and closer to being accepted by the general population. As of before, were frowned upon for being delinquents and lazy. The X Games were known to be the savior of skateboarding. With the eyes of the mainstream, the X Games had everyone's attention. With the name Extreme, which it was, everyone was interested in the death-defying stunts that the skaters put themselves through to show the public what skating was really about. And then the 1999 X Games, where Tony Hawk attempted the 900. The 900 is a 900-degree revolution. That's 2.5 spins. You have to spin fast enough to maintain your equilibrium, get a sense of where you're landing, and hope you spun enough to land properly. Tony Hawk's been attempting the trick for 10 years and only took him 10 tries that night, with his opponents giving up their runs just to see Tony Hawk land his trick. Which had seemed as an impossible trick, Tony Hawk has finally landed it. Both the X Games and Tony Hawk now has the eyes of the mainstream. Activision and Tony Hawk partnered up and created the game Tony Hawk Pro Skater. Many popular skate magazines such as Thrasher, Transworld, and Big Brother, with Thrasher magazine being the most infamous due to its skate videos. With the sport being local in Vista and Oceanside, Carlsbad and Encinitas, it's interesting to see how far the sport has come.